Living in London is already difficult. The rent is terrifying. The apartments are tiny. And somehow, everybody owns one mysterious frying pan nobody admits to buying. But Marcus's biggest problem wasn't London. It was Kyle. This is Marcus, a normal human being trying to survive London rent prices and, unfortunately, Kyle. And this is Kyle. Kyle is unemployed, not because he can't get jobs, but because society keeps rejecting his nonsense. He is unemployed and somehow still gave financial advice. Then there was Sarah. Sarah had lived in the apartment long enough to develop permanent disappointment. Sarah stopped believing in happiness 3 months after moving in. For the first time in 6 months, the apartment was peaceful. Nobody was arguing. Nothing was on fire. And Kyle hadn't said anything spiritually dangerous. Then suddenly, he entered the kitchen looking like a rejected apprentice from The Wolf of Wall Street. And immediately, Marcus knew something terrible was about to happen. Kyle greeted, "Good morning, workers." Sarah said, "You've never paid rent on time." Kyle said, "Because today changes everything." Marcus looks confused. Marcus asked, "What happened?" Then Kyle proudly said, "I got a job." Then everywhere went silent. Now, under normal circumstances, hearing your unemployed flatmate got a job should be positive. But this was Kyle, a man who once got locked inside an off-license because he thought push was a motivational message. So naturally, nobody believed him. Marcus said, "Wait, an actual job?" Kyle said, "Yes, Marcus. I've joined the corporate ecosystem." Sarah said, "What does that even mean?" Kyle explained, "It means I'm financially evolving." Apparently, Kyle got hired at a small electronics store in East London. Nobody knows how. Scientists are still investigating, because watching Kyle in an interview felt like watching a raccoon apply for citizenship. Manager said, "So what experience do you have?" Kyle said, "I understand human psychology." This was concerning. Manager asked again, "Any previous work?" Kyle said, "I used to work in digital investments." By digital investments, he meant Facebook marketplace scams. Kyle walking through London dramatically in slow motion. Kyle walked into that shop like he was about to save the British economy. Meanwhile, the actual store looked like it sold expired phone cases and sadness. Manager said, "You're late." Kyle said, "I operate on creative timing." Manager said, "Creative timing? You operate on unemployment." Customer approaches counter. Kyle standing confidently. The first customer interaction lasted 30 seconds. And somehow, Kyle still failed. Customer said, "Hi, do you sell iPhone chargers?" Kyle pauses. The he asked the customer, "What generation of energy are you seeking?" Customer was confused. Customer told him again, "A charger." Kyle said, "Interesting." At this point, even the customer looked unemployed. Queue forming. Customers irritated. Kyle pressing random buttons at checkout. Machine beeping aggressively. Within the first hour, Kyle had confused 3 customers, disconnected the card machine, and somehow printed 47 receipts. Nobody knew how, including Kyle. Manager came in and say, "Kyle just scanned the item." Kyle said, "Manager, the machine is judging me." Manager said, "It's simply asking for a barcode." Staff break room. Kyle microwaving fish. Co-workers horrified. Now, if you've ever worked in Britain, you already know there's one universal workplace crime. Kyle is microwaving fish. And unfortunately, Kyle believed in freedom. A co-worker said, "Mate, what is that smell?" Kyle said, "Mackerel." Entire room went silent. A co-worker told him, "You can't microwave fish in here." Kyle said, "Then why does the microwave have options?" By lunchtime, the store had entered economic decline. One customer threatened to leave a review. Another simply whispered, "This country is finished." A customer aggressively shouted, "I just want to pay." Kyle said, "So we're all trying to pay emotionally." Another customer said, "Who hired this guy? 6 hours? That's how long Kyle survived employment. Not a week, not a month, just 6 hours." Manager said, "Kyle, this isn't working." Kyle said, "I agree." The environment feared innovation. Manager stares blankly. Manager said, "Kyle, you're fired." Kyle nods calmly. Kyle said, "Some companies aren't ready for disruptive thinkers." Kyle returns to the apartment carrying his side bag dramatically, Marcus and Sarah staring. And just like that, the working class lost another soldier. Marcus asked, "You got fired already?" Kyle, "I prefer spiritually downsized." Sarah said, "You lasted 1 day." Kyle, Einstein was also misunderstood too. Sarah said, "You're a philosopher like Einstein, right? Nighttime." Kyle thinking how to get rich fast. At this point, Marcus had lost all hope. Because whenever Kyle discovered a new career path, society suffered. Marcus asked Kyle, "What are you doing now?" Kyle, "I'm learning Forex." Marcus freezes. And that was the beginning of an even bigger disaster.